I'm going to combine two videos because I had two people ask similar. They're not exactly similar, but they're not exactly the same, but they're similar. So Diane wanted me to talk about creative flow. And then Pink Ninya is her online name, wanted just me to talk about the flow state, the state of flow. So I'm going to combine them to save time. And there is a slight difference between the two. There's lots of shades of everything, lots of facets to things. So flow can be many things. One of them could be a creative flow. There could be other flows. So I'm going to just generally talk about that. Well, what's flow? Let's first define what are we talking about. So if we say flow, I think what we most of this think of is some kind of seamless, natural, whatever it is, right? Go with the flow, right? An ocean flows, right? A river flows, right? The laughter in the room just flowed, whatever it is we're talking about. So we're really talking about some kind of state, whatever it is, that's in a natural, peaceful state without resistance. A kind of harmony, really, is, I think we'd all agree, is generally what we think of when we think of something that flows. Now, creative flow would be more of a specific branch of that, right? Because there's lots of different flows. So creative flow would be getting to the flow of releasing your creativity, right? So let's go back for a second to general flow, and then we'll branch off again to artistic flow and any other branches that pop into my mind. So, okay, so now we know what flow is. I'm assuming you're asking because humans, we struggle with flow, and of course we want to be in some kind of flow state, some kind of balanced, natural state, as opposed to chaos or resistance or whatever. And that's good. It's a wonderful, magical thing, and it's very meditative, and it certainly serves us when we get into any flow states. And it's good to do things to support that. But again, the mind often can get tricky and wants to jump in and start saying this is this and this is that. Just be careful, though, that you're not focusing so much on needing flow that anything else is unacceptable. In other words, everything here has a purpose, including non-flow. In other words, chaos and all that other kind of stuff, anything that's not a flow state, has its purpose too. I mean, we don't want to be in those states all the time. Obviously, that's when you want flow, because that's more of a natural, peaceful state, the being state, where it can just meditative, right, when it's in the flow. So, yeah, we want to be mostly in that state if we can, but when we're not, and we certainly don't want to be in the other states most of the time, of course not, because that's suffering and unhappiness. So yeah, we want to strive for being in the flow whenever we can, or embrace when the flow comes, and milk it, ride it out, of course, and support it, and do things to support and allow flow to come naturally. Absolutely, go for it. Whatever, you'll find your own way to do that, and go for it. But when you're not in the flow, when other opportunities, and they are opportunities, don't push them away. A lot of times we're trying to push away pain. We don't want to deal with any pain whatsoever. We don't want any uncertainty or chaos. That's the mind again, doesn't like the unknown. And there's a danger to that. And there's opportunities, and they can be gifts too, because we can't grow without pain. We can't, it seems anyways, here in this experience, that the way we grow, and the way we shine, and the way we realize our direction in certain things is often through struggle and through conflict and through things like that, even negative things and pain. So they do have a purpose, and they can be gifts, because even the most painful situation, a difficult situation in life, they're gifts. We just don't see it that way. But in time, given enough time, if we become more healthy over time, and then most of us find that if we look way back and we've grown a great deal, which means we've let things go and put things into perspective instead of holding on to the past, then most of the time, most of us, given enough time and working on those things, we'll look back eventually and go, a lot of good things came from that. I'm glad I went. I wouldn't change a thing, because that painful thing, this happened and that happened, and if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have done this. So, again, they are gifts. They're just difficult to see as gifts at the time, and they're very painful. They can be very painful gifts. So, while searching, while striving for flow, and absolutely go for it, don't make anything other than flow unacceptable. You got to allow it all, is what I'm saying. And in allowing even all that, you'd be surprised how you can find flow. That's the ironic, in a world of constant ironies and I'm getting a blank on the words I'm trying to use right now. Of reversals, and that's not the word I'm looking for. Anyways, in this world, it's funny. It's so many layers. So even in allowing the negative things in our life, the negative experiences, accepting them when they come and not resisting, before you know it, you're in a flow. So there you go. So even with pain, you can flow through pain, right? So yeah, absolutely. Embrace the flow whenever you can, whatever kind of flow or version of a flow, whatever it is, by all means. And it can be found in all things, including things that the mind would deem as not flow. Yeah, you can flow with anything, right? You really can. Sometimes when people are like physical pain, like say cancer patients or people that are, a lot of times what they do is they'll meditatively flow with the pain, and it makes the pain less painful, and they'll find their own way to flow with it and turn it around. And of course, masters can even get into a flow where they, the pain, it's still there, but it has no real effect on them. They can almost tune it out. So again, those are flows too, right? So there's a lot of different ways to flow. Conversations flow. Creatively, let's go back. So we've talked a bit about flow in general. Let's go to creative flow, because a lot of people, creative flow is an important thing too, because we are the creators. So it is important. We live in the age of the artist. I've said it before. No time in history have we had an entire planet of 7 billion people where pretty much everybody is an artist of one, creatively, some kind of artist in one form or another, whether they realize it or not. Most people play one or more instruments. Most people do some form of art, whether it be physical traditional arts or dancing or acting or writing or computer art or creating video games or whatever, carving, or this is all a creative. This whole world that we've created physically is an artistic expression, and everything we do in our life, even when we're telling a story, we're being creative. And right now, I'm being very creative. And when we exaggerated a story, we're storytelling. We're being creative. So it's in our nature. We are the creators, and so we want to. That's a flow we always want to encourage and do whatever we can to nurture that in ourselves. So that's why I say. We live in the age of the artist, and no time in history, thanks to the internet, have people of every walk of life pretty much been able to have access and share with millions and billions of people around the world via the internet, whatever their art form is. So it's an amazing time. It really is the age of the artist, and it is what we are. So we want to tap into that too. And so I encourage you to tap into the creative part of you. So as it relates to creative flow, all that really is, I'm assuming that's what you're asking. Diane, you asked about creative flow. So creative flow, if you're having trouble getting into it, I can tell you as an artist myself, as a children's author, illustrator, and I do all kinds of different art. I teach art, workshops, painting, all kinds. I won't get into everything I do, but I'm an artist through and through, and my whole life is an artistic expression. So if you're finding that the creative juices aren't there, if that's what your question is, and you're trying and you want to know how can you get into creative flow, well, artists and especially writers, really you're going to have to discover that yourself, but there are ways. Each of us have our own ways we discover as an artist. We discover our own ways. So I could give you some of mine, but I mean, they may not be the same. You could try them, but some artists, nature, that's a big one. Basically anything that inspires you. So that's why writers especially will go out and do things. People are like, why aren't you writing? And they look like they're goofing around, right? They got a deadline to write something, and they're going, and they're kind of locked up, writer's block. And then people catch them, and they're doing fun stuff for themselves, right? Or say, what are you doing? Well, a lot of times what it is they're trying to do is they're trying to release that creativity, get inspired, get in some kind of flow. So it could be whatever is meditative to you, or whatever inspires you, or whatever brings you happiness or joy, whatever makes you naturally, without effort, want to pick up a pen or a paintbrush or whatever it is your art form is. Whatever naturally you find yourself doing, just do those things. So if it's going out in nature that inspires you, then go do that. If it's watching movies inspired, then go do that. Whatever it is that inspires, if it's treating yourself to something, do that. If it's a matter of you can't get into creative flow because your mind's chattering and worrying, then you want to look into maybe meditative things that quiet the mind and get in a peaceful flow, a peaceful state. So for creative flow, there's no specific trick. As artists, we find our own way, so you'll just have to find your own way. And it won't be hard to do if you're committed to doing it. Again, you know what you like. And if you think about anything you've done creative, just think about any big things you've created that it just came and you did it and without effort or whatever. Well, think of, what kind of state you're in, and think what generally makes you in that state. You know what I mean? So you'll find the way. Whatever peels your own potato. But if you're not in the creative flow, don't just sit there and don't force it. Just go do things for yourself. Go treat yourself. Go distract yourself if you have to. Whatever it takes, and just be patient. And as long as you're not putting a pressure on yourself, because pressure is the reverse. So if you're going out in nature, but your mind's going, man, I need to write, man, I need to write, or man, I need to paint, or man, no, that's the opposite. So you do need to quiet the chatter. You need to take the pressure off yourself. So that would be another way too. Don't just find something to enjoy yourself or inspire, but also make sure you're not pressuring yourself. So whatever you do to take the pressure off yourself will help too. And then just enjoy yourself. And if you're not pressuring yourself and you're enjoying yourself, believe me, before you know it, you'll be inspired. And when you feel it, go run to your whatever it is you're going to do in your art form and go do it. So you'll find a way. And so back to the first flow by Pink Ninya. Pink Ninya. For those of you that don't know Latin, pink, well, obviously is a color. Ninya is a way of referring to a little girl. So this isn't a little girl. This is a woman. But it's basically she's it's the reverse of my YouTube channel. This channel is called The Miguelito. It's spelled incorrectly on purpose, but it comes from the different spelling comes from Miguel, and Miguelito is what you would call a little boy named Mike. But when you call when you do it, it's meant to be a sign of affection. So it's the same thing with Niña, Niño. Niña is referring to a little girl, and Niño is a little boy. But when Latins do that, they do it with an affection. You know what I mean? It's not just the little boy. When you say Niña, especially directly to them, you're going Niña, or Niño. So it's an affectionate way of referring to a child. So she's affectionately referring to herself, of her inner child. So it's a lovely name. I don't know why the pink's in there, but whatever. And there's more to the name too, but I won't get into it. We'll give her some anonymity here, but yeah, neat name. But I just mentioned it in case you're wondering what's that? So Ninya just means little girl. Anyways, that went way off topic. So Ninya. So flow state, I'm not sure exactly what you're seeking, if you're seeking anything related to the flow state. We've already covered creative flow. So if you mean like peace or whatever, then getting in the flow of things, again, allowing is a big part of it. Meditative things, including specific meditation, can help, because if the mind chatter goes, which it does in meditation or meditative things, then you are in a flow, right? You're just a flow of being, right? Like a leaf on the stream of life, not resisting, right? Just go with the flow. So finding your own flow state, again, just like the creative flow, you're going to have to do that, and you're the only one qualified to find your own flow state. And all you got to do is refer to your past. When do you recall being in any flow states? Really think about it, and it's impossible you haven't been in any flow states. So if you're coming blank, your mind's resisting and you're not trying. If you really want the flow state, then you'll authentically and sincerely look back at yourself, because you really want to find that flow state, and you'll really look at it and you'll think back and you'll see, I remember that when I do these things I get in a flow state, and when that happened I was such a flow. And so whatever those things, those are your cues of what makes you get in that flow state. So do similar things. So again, it's all up to you. You are the master of your own experience. You're the only one who can find your own flow state, and you have found it. So those are your clues of how to find it again. And again, it's just a matter of committing. Like everything in life, you have to commit to it if you really want it. So same with happiness is a choice, self-love is a choice. And really, getting in the flow really comes from those things too. So again, I've mentioned it so many times in other posts and videos. We really, at some point, if you want to find true flow in life, is you got to first truly choose once and for all to love yourself, to truly love yourself. And by doing that, you'll want to make yourself happy. And if you want to make yourself happy, you'll be committed to it because you truly love yourself. And when you're doing those things, then you'll naturally find your flow states. And then when you get out of flow, because you've committed to loving yourself and you're committed to making yourself happy, you'll be just as committed to finding your own flow states, because that also makes you peaceful and happy to be in your flow. So you can find it. Just make sure you commit to it deep down. And if your mind's playing around, it's not committed, well, you'll find the mind will make a lot of promises and things, and a lot of times we'll see the actions don't follow. So you'll know when you're really ready to find your flow state, because you'll actively do things to get into that flow state. And if you find that you're not, then if you're committed to it, because you can't always be in the flow as we think of it as being the peaceful state. Again, if you allow even the pain and everything else, then yeah, in that sense you are in an, certainly Buddha, eventually got into a pure flow state of being, right? But in this world, generally most of us, you're not always going to be in what we think of as flow, or as the perfect flow. So just allow all of it, and in that sense you are flowing. You will flow with life. Because when the joyous, amazing abundance comes, you'll enjoy that, and when the painful, difficult gifts come, you'll allow them, and you'll flow with them. So it's all up to you. You are the master of your own experience. I love you. Love you, light.